What's going on, everybody? Brewhand Luke here on National Signing Day, which is always a big day in the college football news cycle. This used to be something that they would have in February after national championships, all the coaching changes, let everybody settle in. The last few years, they've moved it to December with an early signing period because a lot of these 4-star and 5-star recruits get their letters of intent sent in so they can enroll early in January. That's a big new thing over the last handful of years. I don't know exactly what year that started, but it makes for a very busy and very exciting December and January with all the bowl games and the bowl seasons. And at this point in time, all the coaches for now have settled in and the coaching cycle and the coaching carousel is complete. Of course, things can always change after the bowl season, after the college football playoff, after the NFL season, when there's NFL openings that open up. A lot of things change between now and February. Some things to keep in mind is this is not like a professional sport where there's a trading deadline. Like today is National Signing Day. It's the first day that a student athlete can send in their letter of intent to be officially signed on the dotted line. Before, you'll hear a lot of things about commitment, and a athlete may have committed to a university and then they decommit and then they recommit. It's more and more common than you think these days. So that's why it gets a little bit crazy on National Signing Day, because a lot of these schools are still on the gas trying to do a last push for some of these bigger commits, top 100 commits, 3-star, 4-star commits to certain schools to get them to flip. We'll talk a little bit more about that with some examples from that today as we move forward. It's going to be a very recruiting heavy podcast episode today. I have some thoughts on National Signing Day specifically, especially with this day and age with the NIL. It's kind of like the Wild West, especially with the transfer portal and athletes from other schools transferring and announcing their signings of where they're going today as well. Some schools need to also keep in mind, and their fans need to remember, that a lot of these athletes that are signing out of high school right now, there's a good chance that a lot of them will be back in the transfer portal next season. So you could go and get some fresh blood, for lack of a better term, with some of these other schools. So if you don't like the signing class that your team has at this point in time, there's always next year, because the transfer portal is going to be just as insane as it is this year. The transfer portal still is settling in right now. There's a lot of people that are committing and signing, and you won't see all of them sign today. There was one Florida commit who said he is not signing today and he is waiting. So we will see when that happens. I have some thoughts on Florida that I will share in just a little while. They seem to be having some issues at Florida. I will dig into that in a little bit of detail. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But for now, let's just do a quick dive into the top 10, as of now, recruiting rankings for the class of 2024. Now, this is not including athletes that have signed and been in the transfer portal. This is only high school athletes and where they're going next year. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind, is they might not be happy after one semester or 1 year there if they enroll early. They might not like where they are on the depth chart. They might see some things with the coaches, and then the coach leaves to go to another school, so they enter the transfer portal. So it's very exciting for these schools that are in the top 5 or top 10, but a lot of things could change. You just have to continue to do this year in and year out so you have the depth in your program. A lot of these athletes you won't hear about next year. They may be redshirting. Some of these 5-stars out of high school will be playing right away. But also, if you play right away, it's not guaranteed you're going to have success. We saw that with Dante Moore at UCLA just this year, where it was not a good fit for him with Chip Kelly and that UCLA staff, and now he is committed to the Ducks, and he has said and he realized he needs to take a step back and learn and develop and sit for 1 year behind Dylan Gabriel at Oregon next year. So that's going to be a fun, exciting time in Eugene for Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore. And they also, speaking of that, they had a 3-star recruit signed today. He could have easily left and transferred or left and decommitted to go sign somewhere else, but he's excited about just being in that quarterback room. So there's a couple ways to look at it. If you're a high profile high school athlete, you could go to one school. Obviously there's some NIL money involved, and you could sit for 1 or 2 years and learn and develop and be part of a very deep, strong room for your position. Or you're saying, I want to play right away, or I want to play within the next year, and you want to go somewhere that you feel that's a good fit for you. A lot of things vary from athlete to athlete, from family to family, depending on what they want to do. So we'll just go down the field here. Coming in at number 10, you have Notre Dame. Then you have Oklahoma at number 9. Coach Venables seems to be having some good consecutive years with recruiting classes there. And they have a 5-star quarterback that I believe will be playing in their bowl game this year. It's a true freshman. So there's some exciting times for Oklahoma coming up. Going back to Notre Dame real quick, just from our friend Josh Nelson, old friend alert, they signed out of Chandler, Arizona, 3-star recruit, safety recruit, Brian Urlacher's son, whose name I don't recall at this time, Sean Urlacher. We'll go with Sean Urlacher, safety Sean. But he did sign with Oklahoma or with Notre Dame. Down at number 8, Hugh Freeze with a big signing class for Auburn. I haven't seen anything on Auburn until this. I looked at it, it's like, oh wow, that was a surprise to see them up in the top 10 there. And then now at number 7, Miami has gotten some last minute flips, and they have moved all the way up to the number 7 spot in the ranking. Number 6, Florida State, they had a good signing class. They were in the top 5, and then they had a top 5-star safety decommit and flip today to go and sign with Georgia. Justin Williams, a 5-star linebacker, I believe, was who they had that flipped and signed. Nope, that was not Justin Williams. It was a safety. Anyways, it was KJ Bolden. As I look on my screen here, KJ Bolden, the safety, flipped last minute today. That was a little bit of a letdown for Coach Norvell and Florida State. They still have a very, very good recruiting class over there. Brian wants to know, did Auburn bring Bo Jackson back? He's going to shoot the opposing team with a bow and arrow with his feet. I don't know that Bo Jackson got brought back into the fray. Maybe he did. Maybe he's very, very angry and upset about it, about having to do some recruiting pitches. I don't know. We'll see. Coming in at number 5, a college football playoff finalist, the Texas Longhorns. Coach Sark is still landing these guys with another strong recruiting class. They just need to be consistent. The quarterback still with Quinn Ewers most likely returning. I haven't seen it. It's officially official, but he is going to return next year. And then, of course, you got Arch Manning behind him. Another strong signing class by Coach Sark, especially when he's continuing now with his success. He's losing a lot of his assistant coaches to coordinator positions at Power 5 schools. He lost my guy, Coach Choate, who's a co-defensive coordinator, who's a linebackers coach. He's now the head coach at Nevada. So he's losing. This is a good problem to have, to continue to lose different assistant coaches to head coaching jobs or Power 5 coordinator positions if they were not a coordinator before. So to be able to continue to have that signing class, because your assistant coaches are such a big backbone to your recruiting, and still have that success, it's working right now. He needs to continue to have good assistant coaches, which he will, on staff, to have that consistency to be in the SEC and succeed in the SEC. So that would be our second now SEC program in the top 10, because you had Oklahoma, because they are an SEC program next year. I'm sorry, Auburn, that's another SEC program. and then you drop down. So Texas is our third one in the top 10. And now we are down to the Big Ten, the Ducks. The Ducks had a big day. They were outside of the top 5. They were 6th or 7th going into today. Had some big signings. Again, they have been really killing it in the transfer portal with 2 of the top quarterbacks, with Dylan Gabriel coming from Oklahoma for 1 year, and then Dante Moore said he's willing to sit behind Dylan Gabriel for a year to develop and learn under Will Stein's offense. They also got a quarterback, Luke Moga, and last year Austin Novosad, who was a 4-star quarterback. So their quarterback room is extremely deep for the future. They also flipped 2 wide receivers today. They flipped a wide receiver from USC who lives in California, who kept it under wraps. Even his parents, I don't believe his parents had to have known, but Ryan Pelham out of California was committed to USC, a 4-star wide receiver. Was committed to USC all the way up until he went to his high school to sign and announce his commitment, announce his signing. And at the signing, he flipped and announced he was going to Oregon. Connection there is that his uncle, Don Pelham, was a former defensive coach for Oregon for a long, long time. So there's a family connection there. And he was not going to let his nephew go to USC. So Coach Lanning and that staff go right into USC's backyard and go into Lincoln Riley's backyard and take a guy from California again and flip him last minute to be with Oregon. They also got another 4-star signing today. They flipped at last minute a 4-star wide receiver that was committed to Ohio State all the way up until his signing. So 2 big flips on the high school side for Coach Lanning. I could break down the Big Ten rankings if you want for you, Yump. I mean, they got a local kid that I know, and Eddie Turk. He's a 3-star defensive tackle. He played both sides of the ball. I don't know about the rest of the recruiting class. I just know about somebody that I know that I know is a good kid that should hopefully have some success, and it's a good spot for him. Big Ten wise, they're still pretty far down the list. They are not a top 10 national signing. Let's get to another comment here. I don't know what this says, so I'm just going to read it live. Baloney says, I read this as singing day and thought Luke was going to be singing Grateful Dead songs. My bad. Have a good day. Okay. Yeah, that I could do that at the end of the show, but I will not today. So the Ducks had a big day. They moved inside the top 5. This is most likely, I don't know without looking, but this has to be their best recruiting class in history for this football program. Great job by Coach Lanning in year 2 to land a top 4 class and number 2 in the Big Ten moving into next year. So looking at where Oregon is going to be with the Big Ten next year, they have the second highest class in the Big Ten going into the next year behind Ohio State. They're going to be ready to play. They're not coming to the Big Ten just to be in the Big Ten. They are going to be an immediate Big Ten championship contender. They're going to be there with a defense built to succeed in the Big Ten. A lot of these schools and programs in the Big Ten are very proud of the way their defense plays, but they usually struggle on offense. Well, I got news for you. Oregon has a high-powered offense that is going to be the best offense in the Big Ten. You could book that right now. Brian, funny story, though. Illinois got a 12-star punter to transfer from Ottawa State, wherever Ottawa State is. Sounds like it's in Canada. Oregon did sign a 5-star kicker. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently you could sign a 5-star kicker. Maybe the kicker just puts on Twitter that he is a 5-star kicking recruit. I don't know if that's a real thing, but I'm going to go with it and say that they signed a 5-star kicker. I didn't know that they ranked kickers in recruiting classes, but I'm going to say he was a 5-star kicker. Spags, I'm going to pull this comment up here. Yeah, now the Ducks have to beat Washington next year. The thing about that is Washington also has to beat a lot of these teams in the Big Ten, and I don't know if their defense is built for success in the Big Ten. And they also, if you look at where they are in the recruiting ranks, they are very, very, very far down. They are ranked. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They are not even in the top 6 in the Big Ten as far as the recruiting class goes. So I cannot say that Kalen DeBoer is not really a strong recruit as far as signing big names. Maybe he's finding people that fit his team and his program. I just don't know. He had a lot of success with transfers coming into Washington in his first year or two. Michael Penix is going to be gone. They got Will Rogers from Mississippi State to come in. Could be a very good fit for him for 1 year. But what are they going to do long term is my question. We will see how that all pans out, because the recruiting classes the last 2 years for Kalen DeBoer are not there. That's just not it. Coming in right in front of Oregon at number 4 is another traditional recruiting powerhouse, Ohio State. They signed the number 1 overall recruit in the entire country today, who was another wide receiver. So, again, Ohio State has now, in the last 5 to 10 years, historically been a wide receiver school. So the fact that Oregon was able to flip a 4-star wide receiver tells me something, and they still have a 5-star, number 1 overall wide receiver in that class. That's going to be exciting for them. They dropped a little bit because they lost a couple other athletes to some flips as well. And then we got our 2 heavy hitters in the SEC with Alabama at 2, and then Georgia with the flip from the Florida State safety is locked up officially number 1 overall. That is the consensus now from 24/7 Sports. So this is from the rankings according to the 24/7 Sports recruiting. They do their personal rankings, and then they kind of combine that with the other publications out there to have a consensus rankings, and that is the consensus overall rankings that 24/7 has compiled. So that's your composite rankings from like ESPN, 24/7 Sports, On3, whoever else. So Oregon, for example, right now is composite 4. Some places have them as high as 2 or 3. They're easily number 2 in the Big Ten, but it's very, very close between Ohio State and Oregon. I don't anticipate any more flips from that program. But if there's one person to be on flip watch right now, that would be the number 1 offensive lineman in the country, Jordan Seaton, who just last week committed to Coach Prime at Colorado. And then now he is still not signed. He might be having a signing day ceremony later on, but he has not sent in his letter of intent to Boulder. So there's some people wondering there if he's going to stay home. One crystal ball on 24/7 Sports predicted that he was going to stay home. He's a Maryland kid, and the new crystal ball prediction is that he is going to sign with Maryland. So that would be a huge get for Maryland. I understand staying home. Maryland is a Under Armour heavy school. I can't remember the CEO of Under Armour's name and the founder, but it's basically their version of having Phil Knight. And the NIL field is going to help them vastly if this is what's going to happen. They're going to throw the bag at a offensive lineman. I don't know what else the recruiting class is at with their rankings. Some other things of note, some winners and losers from the recruiting rankings. The big winners, obviously, Ohio State got the number 1 overall recruit in the country, and Oregon moving up, a little bit biased here, of course. They moved up to number 4. They were down at number 6 or 7 earlier in the week. They had 2 5-star commits on defense that should potentially rotate in next year and play right away. If you could see what Coach Lanny did in year 2, a lot of the true freshmen on defense were not starting right away, but they were definitely rotating in. And I would anticipate these 2 defensive linemen to also contribute, maybe not as starters, but they will definitely be with the 2s and the 3s rotating in. There's going to be a lot of depth on defense now for that Oregon team. So those are two big gets. They were like both top 30 in the country for those signings. So another big winner that people are really they might need to pay attention to this moving forward. Number 18 overall, and then number six in the Big Ten, Nebraska. Matt Rule and Nebraska seem to be cooking a little bit. I don't know off the top of my head any Nebraska fans, so I'll have to look through Twitter and see and connect with some Nebraska fans to see what's going on there. Matt Rule seems like a very good human being, a wonderful, wonderful person, maybe a very nice person to go and play for. He's made some comments in the past about NIL and the transfer portal and how much it costs, and made it sound like he was almost crying poor for Nebraska not being able to keep up with the NIL. But they're number 6 in the Big Ten, and they're 18th overall. They are ranked right behind USC and Michigan. Michigan has a big gap there before USC, but like they're right on USC's tail now. That takes me to my next point of one of the biggest losers. USC not only is losing all these 4-star and 5-star recruits on defense to the transfer portal, they also appear to be having a lot of these 4-stars, 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star commits starting to flip. And the last thing I saw before I went on air today as an example of this was when Ryan Pelham flipped to Oregon, like within the last hour now that happened. And he did not say a word to the USC coaching staff. This is all just through the grapevine. I haven't seen any comments from Ryan Pelham officially, but it seems like something bizarre is going on at USC. My personal theory is that I think the writing is on the wall, and I think that word on the street maybe that Lincoln Riley is interested in NFL jobs in this NFL cycle, and these recruits are not getting the best sales pitch from Coach Riley that he's going to be there for them if they were going to sign and play for him. So Ryan Pelham, according to a lot of reports, did not contact them to say he's going to sign with Oregon. He maybe got some significant NIL money from Oregon here at the last minute. I don't know. There's a family connection, like I said, but supposedly the USC coaches were trying to reach out to Ryan Pelham all day, and he did not return any calls or texts or anything. And then he got to the signing day at his school, and he put the Oregon hat on. And everybody was shocked, especially USC, because at that point in the day, most of the national letters of intent are sent in at that point, and they had not gotten anything from Ryan Pelham. So they were a little bit concerned, if I had to guess. And that's why they were trying to reach out to say, hey, what's going on? Are we good? We good? And he didn't return anything. And here comes Coach Lanning in Oregon to swoop in once again. Man, it's beautiful. I love it. I love it as a Ducks fan. What a beautiful sight to go right into Lincoln Riley's backyard and then steal another recruit last minute. Steal another California recruit. I think this is another reason why I think Lincoln Riley is out. He does not want to do anything recruiting-wise. He is not showing these kids the love that they need. They're not getting the NIL money they need, which is bizarre because it's USC, which historically has had a lot of under-the-table stuff before NIL was legal. I just can't believe that Lincoln Riley is not able to get it done as the coach. So moving on, I would go into more detail about the transfer portal, but that's like a whole nother episode. The big thing to keep in mind is, again, like I said at the top of the show, this is not a trading deadline. So you're going to still see people signing today. There's still going to be more flips out there. Like I said, Jordan Seaton has still not announced where he's going to play next year. There's other athletes out there. like last I heard, Lincoln Riley was trying to make a push for the Florida commit DJ Lagway, um, and they have not had success in that. Shocking, Lincoln Riley not being a closer. But the biggest thing to keep in mind is this is going to continue. There's going to be another signing day like there usually is in February, where more athletes can still sign. It's a little bit of a smaller thing. This is like the big one now for high school athletes. You don't have to go into the transfer portal and sign today. Some people might announce later on. So those were the big things there. Just keep that in mind. Stay tuned throughout the day. Still, there's a lot to shake out and unfold here. Like, these rankings are not done. These are the current live rankings. You know, for example, Texas is at 5, but if they flip a 5-star recruit, I haven't heard Texas is doing anything along those lines, but if they potentially land another 5-star recruit, they are more than likely going to jump Oregon, and Oregon slides back down to 5, and Texas would be at 4. It's really exciting. My winner, like I said, winners would be Oregon moving up, Ohio State landing the #1 recruit in the country, losers USC, and then Florida. Florida was like right on the bubble of top 10, and they are all the way down to 15. Florida is at 15, and USC is at 17. This is not what these schools expected when hiring these head coaches. Like, Lincoln Riley is fully expected to be bringing in top 5 recruiting classes. Billy Napier, with the resources he has in the SEC and at Florida, is fully expected to be a top 10 recruiting class to restore the tradition at Florida in the SEC. They might be in trouble. This is the first time I will say this, that if these recruits continue to flip and not sign with Florida and they're having struggles in the transfer portal, he is definitely going to be on the hot seat next year. I still am going to stick by my guns and say that Lincoln Riley will not be at USC next year. He may not be at USC come February. So we will see how that all shakes out. Again, those are just my personal opinions. Moving on, we could just touch base on bowl season. And we're back. So keep in mind that and also keep in mind so the opt-outs still lead to opportunities. So opt-out leads to opportunities. That's the teacher in me trying to let you college football folks remember that. Opt-out leads to opportunities for backups. The biggest example I could say right off the top of my head is Oklahoma had Dylan Gabriel transfer, so he's not playing in their bowl game. They have a 5-star true freshman quarterback that's going to play. I'm very excited to watch that game. I believe it is on December 30th. A lot of these games have been exciting, and nobody really knows what to expect. Like yesterday, the Frisco Bowl. Frisco, that's a fun word to say. The Frisco Bowl between UTSA and Marshall had both their backup quarterbacks play. You had Chad Pennington's son, Cole Pennington, play for Marshall as a starter because Marshall's quarterback is in the transfer portal. And then UTSA's quarterback, Frank Harris, who I was really excited to see play, he ended up not playing because of an injury. And then you had Bears legend Luke McCown's son, who played because Frank Harris could not play because he had a shoulder injury against Tulane in the conference championship game. So that ended Frank Harris's career, unfortunately, at UTSA. We wish him the best of luck in the future moving forward. But it was an exciting game. A lot of these football players, I don't know who they are when they take the field. I'll be fully honest, but I'm watching every single game with a lot of excitement because they know they get the opportunity to play in a bowl game and try to be the first chance, their first opportunity to earn a starting spot for next year and moving forward and build something for their 2024 season and for that team for the 2024 season. Oh man, the Frisco Bowl, Rice-A-Roni. That's a great idea. That's, you know what? That could be something. I should power rank or tweet out my favorite award ceremonies for bowl games, Jack. That would be fun because there's a lot of good ones out there. Or like what the coaches have to be doused in. Like it's not just a Gatorade or a water cooler these days. Like the Duke's Mayo Bowl, the winning coach gets doused in a giant cooler of Duke's Mayo. Cheez-Its Bowl, you got Cheez-Its. The famous Toastery Bowl, they had a whole bunch of famous toastery toast from the famous toastery, and they dumped that all out on the coach. So I got to look through and research this and do some power rankings on my favorite trophy ceremonies and my favorite coach showers, my favorite coaches showers. There's got to be a better phrase for that. My favorite coaches celebratory showers. Nope. We'll figure that one out. I'm open for ideas and suggestions for the celebration showers. I can't do it. I can't call it that. I have to figure out a name for that. Some games I'm excited for. I didn't write down the bowl games. Shame on me. These next few days, USF and Syracuse. Syracuse has a brand new head coach who was the defensive backs coach at Georgia. So Dino Babers was fired. They kind of have a lame duck coaching staff. I can say that after that bowl game, very, very, very reliable sources. I know where one, possibly two of those coaches are ending up next year. I cannot tell you right now because that's not my place to announce where other coaches are going to be playing, but are going to be coaching next year. But that coaching staff for the most part is on the move. They're going to be in very successful spots, and I'm excited to see them because I know for a fact that they do a very good job of developing their athletes, and some of them have had success moving on to the NFL. So I'm excited for USF and Syracuse. Georgia Tech and UCF, the total in that game is like 66.5. It's just going to be a track meet back and forth. Lots of offense. That is on Friday. Tomorrow's Thursday. That game is on Friday. And then we got a full slate of like 5, 6, 7 games on Saturday. You've got Troy versus Duke, two new coaching staffs. Nobody from these teams are really playing because they're all in the transfer portal. They're going to the NFL draft. They're opting out. I have no idea what's going to happen in that game. Troy is like a 7.5 favorite now with Duke not having Mike Elko or Riley Leonard there. That'll be an intriguing one. It's just going to be a wild card. Don't know what to expect there. Locally, we have Arkansas State and NIU, so I'm sure all of our Husky fans are going to be tuned into that because that's the bowl game for NIU. Not any team in Illinois, but one of the teams in Illinois for this weekend. James Madison and Air Force. James Madison, Coach Kurt Cignetti is on his way to be the head coach at Indiana. He is not coaching in the bowl game, nor is playing in the bowl game their starting quarterback in the transfer portal. Air Force was a very fun team to watch all year. They usually have a high-powered offense. They kind of fizzled towards the end and lost like 3 out of their last 4 games after having a hot streak to start the year. It'll be interesting to see how they do with a couple more weeks to prepare and reset. Maybe they needed a reset there. That should be a fun one because James Madison, again, was not even bowl eligible. They were bowl eligible by rule, but the NCAA shot them down and said because they are new to Division I, they cannot play in a bowl game. But because of the fact there's so many bowl games and not enough teams were bowl eligible, they granted James Madison a bowl game. So James Madison and Air Force, I think that's going to be a very, very exciting game, despite the fact that James Madison will not have their head coach or their starting quarterback. they still will want to stick it to the NCAA and say, hey, I told you we can win a bowl game. Your rules suck. They're stupid. They're really, really dumb. They're really stupid rules. And we beat a team that's been around in Division I forever. We're new to Division I. We saw it last week. Jacksonville State pulled it off. They were in the same situation as James Madison. So I would love to see James Madison win that game. Another local one. It'll be a fun one. The Vegas Bowl, everybody. That'll be later at night. Northwestern, led by local LaGrange Park product, not LaGrange Park, local LaGrange product. Lyons Township High School alumni Ben Bryant at quarterback in Vegas, taking on Utah. That'll probably be a very Utah-heavy crowd. I know the Utes, I mean, it's very close. It's a short trip. Maybe with the holidays, the Northwestern alumni and faction will get motivated to go to Vegas for a extended weekend before the holidays, but that crowd will be very Utah heavy. I witnessed that personally in the Pac-12 championship game 2 years ago. It was Utah versus Oregon, and it was very, very much more a Utah fan base over Oregon for the fact that Utah is a much shorter trip, but also a lot of the Oregon fans kind of skipped the bowl game hoping to go to the Rose Bowl, but then they lost. Whoops. Now we have Coastal Carolina versus San Jose State. I think San Jose State is extremely motivated for this game. They got screwed over and did not get to play in their conference championship game because the Mountain West Conference decided that UNLV was a more qualified team. It was UNLV, and I don't remember who the other team was. But there was a three-way tie, and they had to decide one of those teams in a tiebreaker. But instead of doing tie-breaking rules and going off of their head-to-head wins, which San Jose State had over one of the two of them, they went to the old-school BCS system, computer system, and somehow San Jose State got bumped out of that. So that's your late-night game, Coastal Carolina against San Jose State. San Jose State's quarterback, Grayson McCall, transferred out. I don't recall off the top of my head. I don't Grayson and McCall recall off the top of my head where he transferred to, but they will be going with their backup quarterback. The Chanticleers with the teal turf are going to be playing San Jose State. I'm really looking forward to watching how San Jose State performs. I think that's a San Jose State bet if I had to guess without looking at any numbers at the line. So that's all I have for college football on signing day. If any crazy news breaks, I will tweet it, but just to kind of wind things down for fun and it being a holiday season and just to kind of shoot the shit with you guys, I figured I'd do a beer review live on air because it's the holiday season, and like National Signing Day, it is a holiday. And for college football, it's a big news cycle. So I'm going to bust open a Bourbon County Stout here. We're going to talk about this one. I've never had it. It is called, so this Bourbon County is the Kentucky Fog Bourbon County Stout from 2020. So this is been aged for 3 years. I believe this is one of the ones that My Sock Summer donated to me after he said, yeah, I don't really drink any beer anymore. So here's a couple for you. So shout out to My Sock Summer. This has, it's blended with Earl Grey tea, black tea, and honey. So again, this is from 2020. We're going to pour this into my Oregon Ducks pint glass, of course. I'm not going to chug this. That's Dougie. That's our guy Dougie Fresh's thing. Pretty heady pour here because I'm trying to podcast and talk to you guys at the same time. I could smell that from here. You could smell that bourbon barrel aged stout just from here. So yeah, I'm going to drink this entire thing. Maybe not the entire thing on air, but once this settles down a little bit, yeah, this is a different one. I have not had it A lot of people, I believe, did not like this because instead of putting coffee in there, they had that tea, and a lot of people are not fans of the different blends of tea with the stout and the beer, but I'll always try these different kind of stouts, especially the bourbon counties of the world. Yeah, I did a terrible job of pouring this, so that's on me. But let's just admire my nice Oregon Ducks pint glass that I'm drinking it out of for now. We could continue to talk some college football while we're at it. Um, if you guys got any questions about college football, just ask me anything. What are you excited about? We could talk transfer portal. We could talk about how Colorado is failing miserably, beside their phrase being "we coming," and they ain't. They're like in the 60s in the recruiting rankings, and they might be below like Washington. So, um, okay, so this is settled in. I could pick up all that bourbon in there. Um, well, let's just see. Cheers. Not bad. The biggest note I have in here, which I love, I like this a lot. I like the honey in there. I didn't expect that. I thought it was going to be a lot more of the tea. Like I'm more of a coffee guy myself. Towards the end there, you could taste some of the green tea and the black tea. Although I don't know what black tea tastes like. I've never had a black tea. I've had green tea. I don't frequent green tea. Um, this is aged for 3 years, so you can pick up a lot more of that bourbon barrel aged flavor in there. Obligatory burp. Shout out Dougie. Oh, there's the tea. Yeah, there's the green tea. It's not bad. It's not my favorite one, mind you, at all. But like people that said, "Oh, this is not good," like it's fine. Like it's a good creative idea that Goose Island went with, and I'm glad that they take chances like this because not every beer you brew is going to be a success. Sometimes you're going to have a flop. This is not a flop, but you got to take the risk and see how things go. And that's something about these different uh, Bourbon County stouts is they always have so much variety. I know if you saw Dougie Fresh and I on the Chicago Sports Bums, we reviewed them about 2 weeks ago. That was a doozy. It was a great idea by me to Uber that day to and from his house. But yeah, this is good. I don't know where I would rank it compared to the other. Like this is a 2020, so I appreciate how it's aged, and you could taste that a little bit more with that bourbon heavy note and that taste in there. I do enjoy the honey in there, but it's fine. Like I don't know why so many people said this was so bad. Maybe it's just because they're not. It's not their cup of tea. Get it? It's not their cup of tea. Um, so, anyways, just a few other things moving forward. Um, I'm not sure next time I will be live on here. Just keep an eye out. Follow the Twitter account. I'll still be tweeting all day with signing day going heavy. There's still some others in the transfer portal that have yet to sign and announce today, like Walter Nolan, the 5-star Texas A&M defensive tackle from Ole Miss, or from. Oh, I almost spoiled it. Did I spoil it? Oh man. From Texas A&M, he's down to his final two with Ole Miss and Oregon. So he's probably like, yeah, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is having a very, very, very good transfer portal. They're going to be a very good team to watch for next year in the SEC. Like, there's a lot of talk between Oklahoma, UT, of course, Georgia, and Alabama, but people need to watch out for Ole Miss next year, and you really need to keep an eye on Missouri next year. I will talk a lot more about them later on, but they're doing really well in the transfer portal, both programs. the new SEC and the new Big Ten are going to be so much fun next year. Anyways, moving forward, I'll figure out when I'll do another episode. I'm going to have guests on. We're going to rotate through just talking with fans. I'll also have some other potentially heavy hitters come on the podcast and talk about the different schools and programs that they cover. Going to try to get some other guys on to hear their stories of their college football fandom. And other days we might just have random shows. We'll talk about whatever with college football, whatever is relevant in the news cycle. You know, if we have to do an emergency podcast about a signing, might do a preview about, you know, the national championship game. The NFL draft. We'll do a lot of NFL draft coverage. That'll be a big thing moving forward in the offseason when we have some offseason podcasts. But we're going to have a lot of guests moving forward. We're going to be bringing people in, like I said, to talk about different teams, different spots that they cover, whether it's a national guy or a local guy for a team, working on some ties and connections there. We'll reach out to those parties and try to get them set up as soon as I can. But in the meantime, you know, the holidays are coming up. I'm going to enjoy Christmas with family and friends. Whatever holiday you celebrate, enjoy your holidays. Post-holiday, other news, check out the Getting Drafty pod on January 2nd. It'll be me, Brian, Aloha Mr. Hand, and Shankster. Maybe we'll add another person in there. I don't know, but we've got 4 people. We're going to do a college football draft of different college football topics. We're going to draft what we think is the best helmet, the best coach, the best all-time team. So you get one team from one year. So like if I were to say the 2023 Oregon Ducks, that would be an all-time team as an example. So mascot, helmet, all-time team, and I'm missing 2 more that I cannot think of off the top of my head. Brian, what the heck were the other 2? I don't even know without thinking. Anyways, that's January 2nd, time to be determined. It's the day after the college football playoff, so it's a good time to transition and talk college football and get more viewers interested in the sport. So game. So we did all-time team, best game of all time, helmet, mascot, and coach. I believe that was the 5. We might have another one. 8 p.m. January 2nd, 8 p.m. That's good. That'll give me time. I like to celebrate New Year's Day more than I like to celebrate New Year's Eve, so that'll get me time to sleep in and recover because New Year's Day is like college football's biggest fucking party, especially with the playoffs and the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl is my absolute all-time favorite game. Potentially all-time favorite sporting event every year. January 1st, every year, the Rose Bowl is like the thing. Like more than the Super Bowl, I get excited for the Rose Bowl regardless of the teams in it every year. So I party hard all day on January 1st. And it starts at 11 a.m. with Oregon versus Liberty in the Fiesta Bowl. Liberty is so screwed. I'm sorry. Bo Nix is playing. Bucky Irving's playing. But this is going to be like, we're going to be a college football podcast. And obviously we'll talk Oregon Ducks and all college football things moving forward. And I might do some fun things at the end of each show. I don't know. We'll see. Like doing a beer review. I could put that in there among other things. So that's all I have for you today. Keep tuning in to National Signing Day. There's a lot more commitments and signings to be announced. Maybe something happened while I was on air and I didn't see anything or hear anything. We'll see. But until next time, whenever that may be, tune into the Eugene to Tallahassee Twitter account. Keep an eye out. Don't freak out if the podcast or the Twitter account name changes and rebrands. That's in the works. I don't know what I'm going to call it or what it's going to be named. I've got a million ideas that I've thought of, and I have not come up with an official name for it quite yet. But if you see that on your Twitter feed and it's a new name, don't be alarmed. It's the same account. It's still the same podcast, all of that. But it's going to rebrand, but still be the same theme with college football. That's all I have for you. Enjoy your holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. See you on January 2nd on the Getting Drafty in Here pod when we do a college football podcast. Shout out to everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Peace.